Todd here with Matt and Jamie Cramer from Holy Soldier, again with you on Rack Talk. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Holy Soldier time when you put your first album out. The whole world is sort of embracing heavy metal. The Sunset Strip is like the center of the world, right? Just to talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, just from the inside out, as opposed to us looking outside in, right? It had to feel like the whole world is all of a sudden just looking in your direction.
Yeah, at the time it didn't feel that way. It just felt like, you were immersed in it. We were kids from Southern California in a band, and I had been in bands playing backyard parties in Orange County, for years. And being introduced to the club scene in Hollywood was a new experience to me. And then for it to kind of blow up like it did, it was super cool. We never, like I said, we never thought it would ever be looked back upon as a thing or a time in, music history, but it was really cool. Like any given Friday or Saturday, you had bands flyering the Sunset Strip, and you'd walk up and down between Gazzari's and the Whiskey A Go-Go, and it was literally just shoulder to shoulder people walking back and forth, and you're meeting people and you're handing out flyers and talking to people. They're asking about the band, and you're kind of, hey, come to the show. And that was really it. And that you had to work at that piece of it to get the word out. And at the end of the day, if you print up 1,100 flyers and you pass them out over a Friday and Saturday, maybe 100 of those people will come to the show. You know what I mean? And then that 100 might tell some other friends, and they'll come to the next show along with the other 100 you just flyered and got people. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of footwork back then to do that. But yeah, it was a really good time. A lot of music. A lot of Aquanet.
There's no social media, right? People have to realize back in the day there were no smartphones, no internet, right? No nothing. You had to go physically hand people a flyer, piece of paper, and say, "Come see my band," and they had to tell their buddies, or you couldn't even fill up a room, right? I mean, it was footwork, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good explanation. Exactly right. There was no social media. I mean, you've had to literally do the footwork and hand people a piece of paper to say, come see me play.
And if they didn't like it,
took a lot of work.
It wasn't going to help, right? If they came and saw you once and you were no good, they were not going to tell their friends to come see you the next time. So
right.
You had to bring the goods on show day, right?
Yeah.
Or it was never going to work.
That's one thing about Holy Soldier, we were very dedicated to rehearsing. So, we worked our jobs during the day. We'd show up at the studio at whatever time, 6, 7 o'clock at night. We'd rehearse 4 or 5 hours a night, 5 days a week. And we were very, very, very strict about that. Like if somebody had something to do or they had a date or something, it was kind of frowned upon. It was like, come on, man, you gotta get to rehearsal. So because of that, our live show was always very tight and very, people always said we were a pretty good live band, because we worked really hard at that piece of it. And I always appreciated going to see a band, and when they played live and they played well live and they were tight, you could tell they were kind of like one, that was worth the price of admission. And I always felt that we owed it to people to give them that. And so we worked really hard at that piece. I think that's what brought people back as well.
Yeah, definitely. And when you
guys had really good live videos, as I saw on YouTube, there's I don't know who, but someone ripped a live off of a cassette or something and then posted it on YouTube. So the footage is really grainy and the audio is kind of fucked up. But the end, I felt the energy, even though all because of all the problems. And I saw that you guys are really working hard at it. So it's a shame there's not much to see live. I wish I could see you guys live, but I'm a little late to that party.
Looking back, I mean, there's so many bands had so many more videos. Like we did the See No Evil video, and that was actually a production video. And Last Train.
Talking about that.
Last Train. Yeah, that was a super camera. And synced up to the actual recorded music, and that's it. It's like we didn't get a lot of opportunity to put out a lot of videos. I don't know why that happened. I don't know if it was budgeting or what, but
we were 2 years too late, basically.
yeah,
If you guys had released that first record in 1988, you would have been, I don't know how big, but really fucking big. And I wish you did.
That's something we were talking about before we got on with Jamie. The record came out in 1990, right when music was starting to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just 2 years prior was like the peak of the whole thing. Right. And
yep.
I mean, Stryper was still huge. You had all these other Christian bands that were happening in Bloodgood and White Cross and everything. And that record came out and was honestly sounded better than To Hell with the Devil did. Right. But you're on a smaller label, Myrrh, I think back in the day, which had never done a rock band before. Right. You're the first. Mm-hmm. So they really didn't have the mechanism in place to push a rock band. And here they have this amazing rock band. And the timing is just like on the slightly other side of when it is sort of, happening, right? Do you think it was just delay? What have you guys talked about that? Like if this would have came out in 88 as opposed to 90, it would have been a different deal.
There's a couple of factors in that. And you bring up a good point in the timing, Todd, but the part of that, so our first album, we were on A&M Records. Our first deal was Word A&M Word. So A&M put a bunch of money into that record, gave us tour support, Concrete Marketing did all the promotions. I remember walking into Warehouse Records and seeing a big cardboard cutout display of us. And I'm like, wow, it was just crazy, And then after Steve left, before we started our first American tour, A&M got bought up by Polygram. So our A&R guy had the option to take a cut and pay or leave. He left. So we're playing the Palace in Hollywood. We're headlining. Love and Rockets is opening up. Sold out show. This guy shows up backstage and he introduces himself from A&M Records. And we said, well, where's Dick Bosey? And he said, well, he's gone, left the company. We had no idea this merge or takeover thing was happening. And he asked, where's Steve? Well, Steve had left and we had Eric to do the tour. And I could see the look on his face when we told him that. So needless to say, A&M didn't pick up the second option. So that was one kick. The other piece to your point was, 1990, right? So we're right on the tail end of all that. So timing was kind of an issue. And then, so now Word Records had to take up the slack on the second record. So there was a series of events, I think, that kind of hamstrung us a little bit, timing being one. But I think all things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So it is what it is. But I think those were a couple factors.
The record was still pretty big and they did some pretty big tours. Now the band was a sort of a Christian band, but not almost as overt as like Stryper was, where the songs were never like preachy. So it didn't have that vibe that Stryper sometimes did. It just sounded like metal to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird how I got into Holy Soldier, because funny enough, I don't believe in anything. I am not religious at all. But I listen to Stryper because it's kick-ass metal, and then I just scroll down on Spotify where it's You Might Like, and then I saw Holy Soldier and White Cross, and I looked at the picture of you guys, and I was, damn, they look like they can fucking play. So I just clicked on, and then clicked on the first song. I think it's Stranger or something. And I immediately hooked. So I don't listen for the. Well, I listen for the lyrics, of course, but I don't listen because it's Christian metal or whatever you want to call it. I just listen because it's good music.
Yes, that's why I started. So I thought, wow, this is really cool. And it wasn't until later that I realized it even was Christian metal. But really good music comes across as good music.
I didn't think about it before I Googled it.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with the club scene too, and the occupancy with selling out the clubs like we were, because I think people were seeing the look of the band and they'd come to the show and then they dug the music. They weren't really listening to the lyrics that much. Live too, it might be hard to get them all. So that was a piece of it as well. That's how we drew so many people.
Mm-hmm. But
seem
I
to have,
And
think
then they
that,
buy the record and they hear what we're about later.
right.
but I think that there's a factor playing here that Dee Snider once said in 1985 at the PMRC hearing, you put your own experiences, feelings, and thoughts into the lyrics. And I was listening to your songs, and I did just that. So I didn't hear any religion. I heard my own experiences and thoughts and feelings and whatever, and I kind of just went with it. And it fit me.
Yeah, good.
Lies, for example, that song, it reminds me of my horrible fucking ex-girlfriend, and the song just fucking describes her perfectly. I mean, that was just all lies and bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the pain inside of me, that's just how, I've had some issues and blah, blah, blah. So everything just kind of, I felt it.
Mm-hmm. So it really spoke.
Yeah. And that's what I've been trying to reach out to everyone in Holy Soldier, because I just love the music and I want to get to know you guys and know the music more in depth, and learn the songs and get the inspiration from it, which I've definitely had. It has affected my playing in such a huge way.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate that. It's humbling. Thank you.
Have you thought about that? About just, I mean, here you are now, several decades later. People from various parts of the globe now know your music and you from it. Has that sunk in a little bit, that that this has followed you through your life now? And have you had other contact from people in faraway places about Holy Soldier, about the music?
Yeah, for sure. Like my Facebook page is like my personal page, and I need to build an artist page, but I have a ton of people that are requesting friendship, whatever. So I'll get back to all those when I build my artist page. But a lot of people will message us, hey, I was really into your band and now I'm a pastor. And one of the reasons that we took this route was we all have a story, right? I saw a lot of people circling the drain in my life. Back when I was in another band before Holy Soldier, and I wanted to do something different, and that I wanted something positive, to come out of my music, and that's kind of why we took this path. But I'm going to tell you, some of the most rewarding things are those messages I get from those people all this time later, and to hear, how the music is still touching them, or their kids are now messaging me because their parents listen to it. I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Like Matt, he's, what are you, 20 years old, and you dig the music.
Wasn't even born right back when.
I didn't have
this thing's 34 years old. This thing's way older than you.
I have guitars that are twice the age I am, so that's
Yeah.
kind of weird.
So it's really crazy to see the ripple effect and how it just keeps, it's like any band, right? Like there's kids that love Led Zeppelin, and because their parents listen to it, or Pink Floyd, and it's because they're just really good bands with great music. And but I remember there's a couple times where it really impacted me. I think we played Red Rocks in Denver, and it was a sold out show. We opened for Petra, and I was the guy that always wanted to towel off and go meet the people, and I'd go out the side door and sign whatever they wanted me to sign, and just meet the people. And this kid comes up and he told me that he was gonna commit suicide, and then somebody gave him our record, and he's now he turned his life around, and he's going to church, and he's it touched him in a way that really impacted his life. And so it's like I can't take the credit for it. It's something much bigger than me doing the work, but it's humbling to be part of that, and to see something that we put out touches people. So there's no better reward. It's really cool.
Have you thought about doing has there been any talk of some of the bands that you sort of came up with doing like a reunion thing, like getting members of White Cross and left of Bloodgood, he passed away recently, just getting together and doing like a tour thing?
Not so much a tour. I mean, the festivals, I think they just had one. I can't remember the name of it, but our drummer Terry is in a band called Human Code, and it's Mike from Barren Cross, And they just did some festival, and I think White Cross, them, there's a whole bunch of bands that played. I don't know what the attendance levels were, but we've had offers to go do stuff like that. But we're not much touched with Steven lately much. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
Do you want to know
And,
something cool? I talked to Steven a few weeks ago.
Okay.
He's on my friends list. As I said, I contacted everyone, and on his birthday actually, and I was just telling him, wishing happy birthday and all that, and I told him I play guitar and I've done covers of your songs and all that shit, and then he, out of the fucking blue, he said, "Well, if it all works out, we should do a tour together."
Oh, that's funny. That's
so
cool.
he's still doing music and all that, and
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, he was a very good lyricist because the way his brain works, he's very deep that way. It's a talent, but for Holy Soldier to do something, I can't imagine we would. I know that's, a lot of people would probably want to see that, but I'm working on this new project. Andy's doing music with Dave Kersner, and he plays with Britt Floyd sometimes, and when they're in town, and Michael did his solo record, and he's got a couple things going on, and Terry's playing with Human Code. So, and then the other thing is Andy and Mike are in Florida, Terry and I are in California. I'm not sure where Steve's living. It's just, not that we couldn't.
Steven is moving to England, I think he said.
Whoa.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably been a year or more since I've talked to Steven, but yeah, I mean, trying to get everybody on the same page to do that again, it's like we really appreciate what we did, and that's kind of over there, and I would like to move forward with the project I'm doing and my new ideas.
He was telling us about I had asked about maybe doing a Holy Soldier reunion, and said, that was a great thing, a great time, but really it's done. It's several decades, I guess, in the past now. There are a lot of people doing these reunion tours now,
Yeah.
But maybe too many. What do you think? Is this something that is really getting sort of overdone now? Because there's no good music. People have to make.
I'm sorry, Ted. There's clearly a need. I mean, there's a lot of the 80s bands that are touring, and my wife and I went to a show here at the Pacific Amphitheater, and I think it was Winger, Warrant, I don't remember who else, Skid Row, and they're all sounding good. I mean, they're bringing it. So that's my point. It's like, if you're going to come back and do it again, you got to bring it, right? And we were talking earlier about singers, and it's like, I'm not sure if Steve could or want to do the Holy Soldier sound again. Trying to get everybody on the same page to want to do that again might be a challenge. So maybe it's better left over there.
You wouldn't want to come back and do it badly, like say Motley Crue.
No comment, but
right.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be looking bad for sure. So
no, because it's everything that's recorded from the band sounds good. I mean, it's still generating fans and new interest, and that's really, I think you can tell good music. Bad music just dies and goes away, right? Good music generates new fans and new interest. Decades.
Yeah. Just look at Justin Bieber.
And I mean, yours still is. Do you think about that, about the legacy of the music you've created? About, I mean, once you're, heaven forbid, gone and passed on, that people will still be, interested.
Well, I got news for you. Nobody gets out alive, so
right.
we will be gone at some point. But
true.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's super humbling to hear people still, into our music, and something that we did is still carrying on. It's a really cool feeling for sure.
When the only thing I wish, I want more of it, you can only listen to the first two albums so much, but I love both those albums, and I listen to them almost like every day, and when I'm at work or when I'm out and about, and the songs just they're there for me, so I'm never going to stop listening. You know, I'm gonna be 80 years old sitting in my wheelchair or something. I'm gonna be jamming Holy Soldier.
But you know, it's funny. I mean, some of the music that really influenced me when I was younger, I still listen to. You know, because it's right here. It's always with you. So it's good. It's cool.
Sure. The first, I mean, the first album especially, it seems to have almost grown further in time than it did almost at the start, right? I mean, there are groups all over the internet, there are forums, and the band is still talked about, even though it's something you created a long time ago. The new music you're working on, will it have anything from the old stuff in it? Like, will there be bits of Holy Soldier in the new stuff just because it's you?
So that's interesting. You brought that up. So, the stuff we're doing is, I mean, I don't want to use the word a little more mature, but, it's going to have a rock, Pink Floyd, heavier. It's going to be this really cool thing. And, you know, Andy's influences are, you know, Pink Floyd and you know, Genesis and that kind of thing. The singer we're working with at the moment, same thing. And, you know, I still write now. I mean, I'm into blues, I'm into all this different stuff. So, you know, my writing style has changed as well. But, you know, I actually recorded this one song that it's definitely more upbeat, and it kind of, not to be a spoiler, but it kind of sounds, I think you'll like it.
Oh, cool.
It's you know, it's hard to get that out of how you write, you know what I mean? So you can evolve, but there's going to be pieces in there that are always going to sound like you. So
when you listen to it, you can tell that it's you, because it's literally your DNA in the notes and everything.
So when I sent it to David Safiro, he goes, "That's Jamie right there." So
yeah.
if that's any indication, then there you go.
I think that's a good thing. In your lead playing, I definitely hear, you know, sort of your style in your lead playing. And I mean, I play lead myself, and I'm sure as a lead player, you can hear other players when you notice it's them playing. There are certain, like Matt said, it's their DNA that sort of comes through in the leads. Now, in my rhythms, no one can tell it's me. In your rhythms, though, I can tell it's you, because your rhythms and your leads share a lot of DNA, right? And that's not always common.
Yeah, David Safiro brought that up too. He's like, you know, I layered some solo tracks on that cut I sent him, and he said the same thing. It's really weird. I mean, I guess you are who you are, and you can't really run from that, which I guess is okay. But my rhythm technique, and he said that too. He's like, I can totally tell. He's like, your rhythm technique just stands out. And when I play solos, the same thing. So it's kind of unmistakable.
Yeah.
When I play, which I don't know if it's good or bad.
I hope it's good.
it is what it is, I guess.
When I sit down and try and learn all the Holy Soldier songs, you know, the rhythm really stands out to me, because the riffs are very intricate, but they just work basically. But you know, as you were playing See No Evil here not too long ago, and I was looking at your fretboard, and I was like, holy fuck, I play that wrong. So, you know, I can't hear everything that you're doing, but I know that there's something kind of missing. And I've been learning a lot of those weird chords that just make it sound like you. So that's been a journey and a half.
Yeah, I know it's a struggle. Same thing. It's like I'm trying to learn John Mayer. By the way, is amazing guitar player. Or like Andy Timmons. I was playing Electric Gypsy and learn that song, and you can't sound like him. You just have to do your own incarnation of it, because to play it exactly like that person is going to be super difficult. And then I see people doing tutorials on YouTube, whether it's a Randy Rhoads song, and you're like, wow, like they nail it. You know, it's like they actually sound like it. So, you know, sometimes it's hard to do, and some people get it. I don't know.
I think you're totally right when you said tone is in the fingers, and that's something people struggle with. They think if I buy this guy's guitar and gear, I'll sound like him. Well, no, you'd still need his fingers to sound all the way like you know, and only you have your own, you know, fingers. And your lead and rhythm stuff, it seems melodically connected. Like when you're writing a lead or when you're writing a rhythm, they have a lot in common just in terms of melodic construction. Like it's not just this is a riff and this is a shreddy bit, you know. There's a connection between your rhythm playing and lead playing that I don't hear in most players, right?
Thank you. And you know what, I give Neil Sean a lot of credit for that because I was a big Journey fan, and Neil's solos are like that. You know, he'll kind of trail into the melody of the song into a solo and kind of lead you in, and then he'll rip your face off somewhere in the middle,
right? And
then, you know, trail out. And I kind of always approach it the same way. It's like a solo should kind of build up and choose your notes, you know, carefully.
Not just go completely crazy with it. And your solos, like your rhythms, are written, right? I can tell there's an intentionality. You know, here's the solo bit and just whatever, and then go back to the rhythm. And the solos are all constructed. I work them up before we go in the studio, and then you know, the studio was a very frustrating part for me because, you know, I'm a live player, and there's a lot of pressure in the studio. And so I'm sitting across from David Safiro, who's a really great guitar player himself and songwriter. And we're in the control room, and I'm sitting with my guitar, and, you know, you rip a solo, and you know, he's like, yeah, I feel very good about that. And then he'll look at you and he goes, no, that second bar, you do a better one. You're like, damn it. So then you do another one, and then, you know, you're about 6 deep before, and then maybe the second or third one was the good one, but he keeps pushing you to see something else in there. Right. And then you start to get a little frustrated because you just played it like 6 or 8 times, and then he's like, nope, we got it. I think the third. So he's just being a good producer, right? He's just trying to push you to see, there's a better one in there. I want it. So just keep giving it to me.
That's exactly what he says. There's a better one in there, and he wants to get it out of you.
Until your fingers are burnt. And he's like, yeah, you're done. Okay, I'll just choose from these. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right.
How did you guys start working with him as a producer? I mean, you go all the way back with him, right?
I think that Word Records suggested him, and then we had heard his solo record, and we really kind of liked his perspective, and so we met with him, and we kind of ripped through a set, and we had worked up a demo tape and gave to him, and he wanted to work with us. So like I said, we went into pre-production, and it was just really deconstructing a lot of things we already had. Like See No Evil was already a song, but it wasn't See No Evil. Love Me, I wrote that hook in Love Me, and it almost didn't make the record.
You need to show me that. You need to send me a video how to play that.
Yeah. And it almost didn't make the record because they thought it was a little too bubblegummy. And again, I'm very melodic.
That's easily one of the best songs on that record.
Oh, thank you.
When I played that, I headbanged so hard that my neck hurts.
Well, Steve would always tease me every time we're playing that song in rehearsal. He would start like, he goes, I envision like a bunch of nuns going down the street in a convertible singing that song. I'm like, really? You know, so it was, they always teased me about it because
that's easily. I can listen to that all day, and I do.
That's cool. Thank you. But yeah, I think the melody piece is really the most important part. And sometimes people want to put technical in the way of that. And, you know, I'm going to tell you honestly too, when I'm writing a solo, sometimes I'll be trying to construct something, and then you almost feel compelled. You've got to do something flashy, you know.
It's all about putting it right, isn't it?
It's got to complement the song. You know,
you play for the song. That's the best advice someone ever gave me. When you play for the song, and when it's time to do a solo, do the fucking solo, but then play for the song again.
Yeah.
So that's my when I play, you know, I don't just, you know, as you see on YouTube, people just playing just endless notes over songs. I play for the song, you know, follow the song as it should go, because that's what you do. You don't show off, you know, you put your ego to the side, and you're one collective, you know, thing.
Jamie, as you watch YouTube now and watch, you know, players trying to come up, do you wish you could go in there to each of them and just give them any advice if there was some? Well, what might it be? Like just watching them, because some of them are pretty good, but they're all very, not well, a lot of very young, and they could use some decent advice. What would you say to them?
Just practice. I used to sit on the couch at the studio and watch Bugs Bunny and just sit there and knowing your instrument and being comfortable with your instrument is really the key. So I've known people that decided after watching a concert of someone they liked to go buy a guitar, and then they sell it 2 months later, because the fact of the matter is it's hard when you start out, and you have to put the time in, and if you're not willing to do that. So Zach Wilde, I saw an interview with him, and he would literally play in his bedroom all night long, go to school, and then fall asleep in class, and then come home and play all night long. I mean, he never put his guitar down, and he
was
lived
literally me when I was in school. I played all day and all night after school. I fell asleep in class, went home, played more guitar. I sat for like 8 hours a day. I wish I could have the time to do that again, because I've been slacking recently.
Well, life gets in the way, right? We have to work.
Yeah, I have to, I work my ass off every day now because I have to get my fucking education done and all that. Mm-hmm. But like after I'm done like next year, and I move back to my hometown where my band is, and then we're just gonna hammer it down track after track and just get out there.
There you go.
Practice is the key.
I don't want to live
spending time with your instrument is the important piece. Regardless of what you're playing, spending time with your instrument. The other advice I would give people is don't try to play fast. You need to play slow first. So there's a video out there on like playing an arpeggio, right? And people want to kind of rush through it, and it becomes very sloppy. There's a video, a timeline video, and it shows like hour 8, hour 20, hour 40. And then you're at hour 20 and it's still very staccato. They're not sweeping that thing. And people don't understand the time it takes. I mean, an arpeggio is not an easy thing to play very smoothly and easily. And then there's people that just rip them off up and down the neck, left and right. It's because they spent hundreds of hours, learning the muscle memory of how to do an arpeggio correctly. So any lick is like that, whether you're playing, pentatonic blues, or you're playing some arpeggio minor scale in some crazy thing. So you just have to spend the time to be familiar with what you're doing and the instrument, and I think that's where people lack. I think people just want to play and they skip that piece. So that would be the advice I give.
Kind of like I do.
Skip the middle part.
I basically know the chords, the basic chords, but I don't know any like scales or anything like that. I just play, and where the note feels right, I play it.
Well, actually, I'm self-taught, and at first I didn't know any scales either. But once I sort of learned, after a few years, I picked up basic scales. I mean, if you can just learn major, minor, and pentatonic, I mean, that's only 3 scales, right? You can at least be conversant enough, to move around and stay in key.
Yeah, the only thing I've learned is I just listen to the song and then I just play the notes that kind of fit it, I guess.
Well, that's how I started. I think that's how a lot of people start, is basically you trust your ear, but now
I don't have any formal training, because I was like, 10 or 11 years old when I went to that teacher, and that was all I can remember, is just going up and down the 3 or 4 chords.
Well, they kicked me out for the first 5 years. How about you, Jamie? Were you self-taught, or did you have an instructor when you were starting out?
Yeah, no, I got my first guitar at 13, and I had an instructor for a very short time, but a lot of it was just sitting in my room, just trying to, learn some of the songs I heard on the radio or on my cassette player or whatever. And then I was in a band at 15. And so you're just kind of learning by ear and playing it probably incorrectly, for the most part.
Sure.
But yeah, I was self-taught a lot. And then just actually playing with other guitar players
that
taught me a lot. that's
Just looking at
where I learn the most, is playing with other people and sitting down or jamming with other people, that you really start kind of picking things up.
Yeah, that I think is something of a lost art now because of, you know, the way music sort of works. People get a laptop and some software and you can do it all in your bedroom, but then you don't really
Right.
get to play with other people, which is a big part of growing as a player, is playing with other people, playing off of what they're doing and learning, you know, like that. That's something I think it's almost gone away now, that you don't see that. Bands, like, people now are just, it's one person. They'll make music by themselves, put it on Spotify, but it lacks a certain amount of cohesion that you get, I think, with other people involved. Like you said, everyone touches a riff, right?
Sure.
And it can become better just because everyone else sort of had their hands on it.
Sure.
Do you notice
Yeah, I
that in
agree.
music now? It sounds more isolated when you listen to, you know, players on YouTube. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
I hear it when I'm listening to them. It sounds like, has anyone else ever put their hands on your music? Because it sounds like it's just too isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It sounds very contrived. It sounds very canned. And like I said earlier, like the stuff I'm recording now, I want the other guys to get their hands on it, because I'm writing from my own perspective and my own ear. And when you have more eyes on something, you get a bigger picture, right? The picture can change and become more beautiful when other people are getting their hands and eyes on it. So yeah, Todd, to your point, I think there's some music that does that. And then you hear, you know, like Dave Grohl, who I think writes most of their stuff, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
You know, not all of us can be Dave Grohl, but
No.
but yeah, I think some of these guys on YouTube, you know, and you know, a lot of these artists or these, you know, I call them guitar influencers now, because they've never been in a band, or
Right.
maybe, but they're, you know, they've got 1 million followers, and they've got a signature guitar, but they're, you know, nobody knows who they are other than their YouTube followers. And yeah, I mean, there's a market for that. They're entertaining. They're entertaining to watch, but at the end of the day, can they write a song? At the end of the day, can you put some feeling into something and make you feel it, right?
Will anyone be hunting them down in 30 years to ask them what it was like to write that song, right? I mean, you know, if it's not good music, it doesn't really survive. You know, instructional videos are different than good songs. You know, the stuff you guys wrote, I mean, it was great. So I think it will live. Whereas,
thank you.
A lot of stuff I don't think is going to last. I mean, impressive, sure. Long lasting, maybe not. Now, Dave, you bring up, Dave's a good point. Dave was a drummer, right?
Yeah,
so I learned drums a long time ago, and it was the best thing I ever did as a guitar player, because you are connected to the rhythm, right? Which is the backbone of the whole thing. And if you're not connected to the rhythm, you're just sort of dancing around it, you know, then your playing is very rhythmic, I always felt like. So you almost play more like a drummer. Are you a drummer by chance, or a bass player or something?
Yes.
There we go. All right.
I started on drums.
I knew it.
I started on drums.
I was risking it on that one because it could have been flat wrong, but I thought, yeah, he plays like a drummer. I can hear the rhythm in his playing, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Very
rhythmic.
That's what makes, I think, your playing and your riffing cohesive and good, frankly, is that you write with rhythm in mind instead of just writing on top of it.
Thank you.
You know?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And it makes a huge difference. That advice I would give to everyone: learn to play drums. If you're a guitar player, learn to play bass and drums, right? Not just with a mouse and a keyboard, but like an actual drum kit.
Yeah.
You know, separating your hands.
I have a bass too. I have 2 basses actually. This is my favorite. So yeah, I play. I wish I could play drums. I've tried. I suck. I won't.
It's okay. It's okay to suck. I mean, just it's all right. The practice, I think, of learning the drums, it helped me tremendously in guitar, being able to count time, be on time. And so many players now have to have a click track. You've noticed this when you're in the studio, you hear the click, right? When you're recording Pro Tools or whatever. Well, back in the day, as I'm sure you know, that didn't exist. You listened to the drummer. And if you couldn't follow the drummer, you couldn't record, right? When you were first recording, was there a click going, or were you guys?
Yeah.
Even back
Yeah,
then,
so we recorded back in the day on 2-inch tape. And if you had to punch in something, I mean, you would literally splice tape to fix one little beat. And so the click track would go, and then we would all be isolated and play along with Terry laying his drum tracks. But Terry, to get, so great live drummer. Terry would do solos with wiffle ball bats, and he was an amazing live drummer. But the studio is very, very unforgiving. And Terry, I will never forget this. So we're in pre-production in Fresno on that first record, and Dave, Andy, and I, we're all, and Steve would go off and write lyrics, and so we're all in this room, and we're sitting with our guitars and got a little 4-track, and we're trying to work stuff up. And Terry's in another room with headphones and a click track doing this for 8 hours, like a day, like getting it. And he was a really good drummer, but I mean, he would do a little bit of this, because when he plays live, his meter would kind of shift.
Right.
You can't have that in the studio.
No.
So Dave recognized that early on and put him in this regiment of just headphones, a click track, and then yeah, he nailed it. And so when you're trying to edit in the studio, that click track's so important, because if you're off a little bit, it's not going to work.
Right. Totally. Now these days, live, even people, because the lights sync up to the click. So now the entire band will be playing to the click. So the lights will all sync up to it and everything like that. But that's a fairly recent thing. I'm guessing you guys didn't play live to a click. Did you both play to your drummer?
No, we didn't actually. So we did not, because we didn't have the earpieces back then. Like everybody's got these ear monitors now. So our live shows, sound check was so important, because, you know, your wedges, and, you know, when you're playing on really big stages, it's a really weird phenomenon. I've been on stages where I can't actually hear Terry, the drummer, because I'm over on this side. Terry's in the middle on this big drum riser. Michael and Andy are on the other side, and the sound's going straight out, so I can't hear them. So you really rely on the monitor mix. So I would have the side fill with everybody, and then some of my guitar, and then my front wedges would be vocals, and then some of my guitar with some of the band mix. So no matter where I was, because I had a wireless, I needed to hear everybody. And when you're playing small places, it's not such an issue. But when you're playing the bigger stages, it's crazy. And until you experienced it, you wouldn't even believe you couldn't hear somebody with an amp on the other side of the drum riser when you're on a big stage, because it's going straight out. So the monitor mix was super important. But now they've got these little ear monitors that are custom made, and you get everything you need right in your ear, which is
nice. Cool. Sure. But
so I hate to interrupt, but we have 10 minutes left.
Oh gosh. Go ahead.
I was that was it.
Oh, that's okay.
I just got the notification.
All right. Well, the live thing, like you mentioned, so many players now that play, bedroom players, have never played live and may never play live. So
I have played live.
I've played a little live, certainly nothing like Jamie.
My first live gig, it was at my school, 1,300 people.
Wow.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good gig.
I was shaking after I was done.
You know, it's really an interesting phenomenon, and I was talking to David Safir about this too. I play better on stage in front of a bunch of people than I do in front of 3 people in a room.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
It makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah, I choke. It's like I close up. But you put me on stage,
I know what you mean, because when I play, I play for my coworkers, you know, at work, and I bring a small amp and a guitar, and I'm really nervous and I'm missing all the notes and shit. But when I was in front of like 1,000 people, everything was just smooth. So it's weird, right? To be honest.
What was a big show that you played? Like one of those big stages, big crowd? Does any of them come to mind back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, the Palace in Hollywood was a big show. Red Rocks obviously was one of the biggest shows we've ever done. I think I forgot what the attendance at Red Rocks is, 14,000 or something like that.
Wow.
We headlined a big show in Corpus Christi at a big theater. I want to say it was 6 or 8,000. Then the interesting thing about being on tour is the booking company will book your tour based on your airplay and your draw, right? So in the cities where you're getting a lot of airplay and a promoter can fill a 5,000 seat theater or bigger, they're going to book you there. But then you've got a tour bus, a truck, roadies, and a band on per diem. And so you can't just drive to each big date, right? So you have to fill in the gaps. So the booking company would fill in all the gaps. So one night you might play Red Rocks, and the next night you're playing Joe's Bowling Alley. And then the next night you're playing maybe a theater or a really big club. And then the next night you're playing some small little place, right? And everybody does it. I remember when Skid Row back in the 80s were here at Bon Jovi, they played this little club in Orange County just to play, you know? So you have to pay the bills and you have to keep this big machine moving. So you have to, play every night. And I thought it was cool because the people that really want to see you will drive to go see you in a small place. So you're filling those places up as well. But yeah, it's just really unique because it's just like this through the whole tour, unless of course you're Bon Jovi and you're playing the stadium. But yeah, on that level we were at, it was a little bit different. But the big stages are fun. The big shows are a lot of fun because there's so much energy. And I never wanted to get off stage on those big shows. I could have played all night long. It was just so fun.
Sure. Have you thought about doing like a, just a short, like a documentary type thing? I'm sure you have video clips and stories and, all sorts of cool stuff just about that time,
That's a great question. I have not thought about that actually. I mean, I don't know who would watch it, but
you got a lot of fans. I mean,
I would watch it.
We've got a lot of tour stories that are fun, like blowing our whole per diem for the week at a fireworks store in the Midwest somewhere, and having a firework fight on top of the tour bus and the truck with the roadies, stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of shenanigans. I was a big practical joker. Nobody wanted to mess with me back because the retaliation piece.
So severe.
This was really funny. So we had this really loud horn off a truck or something, and one of my techs and I were up late, and we got this diabolical plan to wire it into the electrical of the tour bus. And we talked to the bus driver and we said, when we say 3, we want you to hit the brakes and swerve really hard, and we're going to blow this horn. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen guys stick to the ceiling. Like, I just remember Michael was in his bunk in the tour bus, and all 4s were on the ceiling like a cat. And it was just stuff like that, right? Like, I'll never forget those kind of things. And it was just so much fun. Like, I remember one time Michael was sleeping, we taped a firework above his face in his bunk and lit it, and just silly stuff. And every day was like that, it's just,
right.
You wake up, you go to sound check, you go eat, you play a show, you're back on the bus, and then you go to the next town. It was a good time.
Are you on TikTok? I just thought about that. Are you doing TikTok stuff? It's big, big with the kids now.
I have not. I think people are like killing on TikTok, and I have not done any TikTok. I haven't put out YouTube videos or anything, but I've got friends that are doing it, and maybe I should.
Well, I mean, just after talking to you a little bit, you've got a ton of cool stories, and from a very important time in metal music history. If you just start making little videos, eventually you'll end up with a big one, documentary, that type of thing.
Well, I need a video producer, I think, so to help me with it. So maybe
me and Matt could help.
Yeah, we can help. No problem.
There you go.
We'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I have one final thing to say to you, Jamie. And first of all, it's a great honor and a privilege to have you here on our show and to talk to you. For me, it's a dream come true, to be honest.
My pleasure.
So I want to invite you to sometime. It's really no rush. I'm still finishing up my education and all, but I would love to have you do a guest solo or whatever on Electric Steel at some point, if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. You heard it here first, folks. Guest solo, next Electric Steel up.
Yeah, sure.
That would be awesome, though. Seriously,
Yeah, that would be cool.
definitely. Well, I
But,
guess.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks so much.
Hey,
TJ
my
McCramer.
pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can do another one when your project is hopefully closer to completion. We can talk about some of the music, maybe hear it and share it with people, and
for
do
sure.
that. Thank you very much for being here. We will see you next time on Rack Talk.